Okay, welcome back. So what have you guys been doing in class since Tuesday?
We started on the Bill of Rights.
Right, well, yeah, and you told me you guys were gonna be doing that, so that's what I got together for tonight, some Bill of Rights stuff. And who knows, we may even get a little bit ahead of your class, so that'll be nice, because then when your teacher asks questions, you already know the answers ahead of time, so. How about you, Karen? Same, just Bill of Rights stuff?
Yeah,
Okay.
Bill of Rights.
Alright, so what we're going to do is, basically, I'm just going to read through this one little part first, just to, make sure that you probably already heard this part in class, it's just a little bit of background on it. If you hear a word, just like normal, like if you hear a word you don't know, just let me know, I'll stop and we'll figure it out, what it is. Then after that, we're going to actually read through the actual Bill of Rights, just like it is in our Constitution, and we'll go through it. And the same thing, like if when we're reading through it, if you hear a word that you're like kind of unsure of, circle it, but just sort of make sure that I stop or whoever's reading stops, and we get to go through what it means. And after we go through them all, we're going to work on this graphic organizer where we've got the amendment, and then we're going to be putting it in our own words. So just to make sure that we totally understand this really important document. So with that said, this part, just listen, and if you hear something that sounds unfamiliar or that you're not sure what it means, just let me know, okay? All right, on September 17th, 1787, in the city of Philadelphia, 39 of the 55 delegates to the Constitutional Convention signed the newly negotiated United States Constitution. Many of those who did not sign refused to do so because the document did not include a Bill of Rights. The Bill of Rights would both secure basic civil rights for its citizens and define the limits of the federal government's power. Much of the later state ratification debates raged over this lack of Bill of Rights. So because it didn't have one, the states were like, well, I'm not going to sign that. In the solution known as the Massachusetts Compromise, 4 states agreed to ratify the document. Yeah.
What does compromise mean?
Compromise is like when one side wants something and the other side wants something, but it's not the same. So they have to come together to an agreement, and usually it's called like meeting somewhere in the middle. Have you heard that before?
Mm-hmm.
So that's what a compromise is, when both sides usually end up giving up something that they really want to the other side so that they can come to an agreement. Okay, so in the Massachusetts Compromise, 4 states agreed to ratify the document if the recommendations would be sent to Congress for consideration. Subsequently, Congress approved 12 of those amendments to the Constitution in 1789, and 10 were ratified by the states and became the Bill of Rights.
I'm not really sure what ratified.
Ratified, right. Ratified is basically that those were the ones they agreed on. Those were the ones they approved. So they actually had 12 that they wanted, but they only could all come to the compromise to agree on 10 of them. But ratified means they voted to approve those. The responsibility for the interpretation of these amendments is given to the U.S. Supreme Court. So that's why it's really important that we fill the spot on the Supreme Court. You guys heard about that, right? No. Moving on. All right, so let's get to the actual Bill of Rights. I'll start and just read the first part, and then we'll kind of just take turns, okay? So this is the preamble to the Bill of Rights, and this part is all the way up until it gets to the part that says amendment. So everything up here is preamble. Except for this part that says note. That's not actually in the, the Bill of Rights. But okay, so the preamble to the Bill of Rights. Congress of the United States begun and held at the City of New York on Wednesday the 4th of March, 1789. Can you read the next one?
The conventions of a number of the states having at the time of their adopting the Constitution expressed a desire, in order to prevent misconstruction or abuse of its powers, that further declaratory and restrictive clauses should be added, and as extending the ground of public confidence in the government will best ensure the benefits and the beneficent
Yeah, beneficent.
ends of its institution.
So what is, before we like move on, that was like a lot of big words. I mean, what do we feel like they're trying to say here? I would say some important words. Like what seems like an important word here?
Declaratory.
Yes. Yeah, because they're declaring and restrictive. Do you remember when I said before that they were they wanted to limit the federal government's power? Like that's really important to these people. I mean, they moved away from, you know, it's like why they left England was because they didn't want this like whole centralized power. So that's kind of what this is all about. Remember, the Bill of Rights is to protect them. That's why it was so important to them. They felt like these were their rights and
They needed confidence in the government.
exactly. Oh, lovely. Okay, so declaratory and restrictive, those were good ones. And yeah, and extending the ground of public confidence. Okay, Karen, can you read the next one?
Resolved by the Senate and the House of Representatives of the United States of America in Congress assembled, 2/3 of both houses concurring, that the following articles be proposed to the legislators of the several states as amendments to the Constitution of the United States, all or any of which articles, when ratified by 3/4 of the said legislators, to be valid to all intents and purposes as part of the said Constitution, viz.
Yes. Okay, don't ask me what this is, but okay, so I actually underlined some things when we were doing that one. One was 2/3 of the House concurring, because that's what they needed. Like, do you guys know what concurring means? Does that make sense?
I was
It
gonna
means,
ask.
great, it means agreeing, like we agree. So when they vote, 2/3 has to be, you know, in agreement.
And that's of each Senate and
Yeah, exactly. 2/3 of both houses, the Senate and the House of Representatives. Then I also underlined the part where it said when ratified by 3/4, because that's how you actually make it official. So first 2/3 have to concur, and then it takes 3/4 to actually ratify, which was what will make it a law or make it like part of it officially. Okay, and all right, I'll read the next one. Articles in addition to and amendment of the Constitution of the United States of America proposed by Congress and ratified by the legislatures of several states pursuant to the 5th article of the original Constitution. Okay, so basically it's the same thing we've been saying, proposed by Congress and then ratified by the legislatures. All right, Katie, can you read amendment number 1? Oh, and one thing I'll say is, like, what we're going to be doing on our graphic organizer is we're going to be looking at an amendment and then putting it into our own words. So the most important part is that you understand the words that we're saying, which is why I want you to stop me if one word, you know, seems like, yeah, a lot of times it's like old language, so it's not words we're using every day. But then also sort of back here somewhere, start to think about how you would like translate it into like modern day English. Okay, Katie.
Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press or the right of people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances.
Any words in there that seem a little bit funky?
Redress.
Okay, all right. So we know they want some certain rights. This one is to petition the government for a redress of grievances. Do you know what a grievance is?
Yes.
Yeah, it's like a complaint. So they want to be able to say to the government, this was wrong, I have been wronged, and now you need to work it out. You know, we need to work something out. So it's basically them being able to call out. They want to have something in here that says they get to call them out. That everything that the government does isn't just A-okay. You know, they have to have a voice in this, and that's basically what that means. Okay, let's go on to Amendment 2, please, Karen.
A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed.
Any words in there that we're
Infringed?
unclear? Infringed. Yeah, okay, so that would be like kind of like means like you don't get to step on my rights. You don't get to take any of them away or limit them or anything like that. Infringe upon them, like just because you say so. So this is actually a really popular one. Do you know what, like when they say bear arms, do you guys know what that means? It's guns and stuff. Okay. All right. Katie, Amendment 3.
No soldier shall, in time of peace, be quartered in any house without the consent of the owner, nor in time of war, but in a manner to be prescribed by law.
Any words in there that are weird?
Quartered.
We don't use that today, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, they actually had to put this in here. So just imagine like how crazy that is. That they had to say that you can't make your soldiers have to live in my house, because that's what quartered means. It used to be that if soldiers came to your door and they said, this is where I'm staying now, you had to, you know, you didn't have any rights there. You just had to let that happen. So they're saying, now it does say in time of peace, so I guess in time of war, you know, there might still be some wiggle room there, but in time of peace, they can't make that, they can't make you accept that anymore.
It also says.
Oh, it does say in time. Yeah, it does say in time of war. I wonder why they put that way over there, but yeah. Okay, so not at all, which is good to know, because I was wondering about that when I'm saying, I'm like, gosh, does that mean if it was war, they could just come and do that? No.
Does that mean that they had to like care for them too? Like it wasn't just living in their house, and they had to like feed them? Or...
Man, that's a really good question. Yeah, I mean, generally the military had supplies, but they ran out all the time. I mean, so, you know, yeah, the soldiers may take your like, livestock or your food or whatever. What were you going to do about it? That was the thing, is you couldn't do anything about it. So, okay, so that was Amendment 3. Karen, can you read Amendment 4, please?
The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrant shall issue, but upon probable cause supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized.
That one's like a major mouthful.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll go through it. Let's go through that one a little bit. Let's just start with like the first part. The right of people to be secure in their persons, house, papers, and effects against unreasonable search and seizures. So, do you think you know what like a search and seizure is?
When like cops search you for like.
Yeah. They search your stuff and then they take it.
it.
Yeah, if they feel as though it is against the law in some way, or who knows, maybe they just wanted it, they'll take it. So this is protecting people against unreasonable search and seizures. So not all search and seizures, but just ones that like there might not be a good reason for. Unreasonable. Okay, so shall not be violated. And no warrant shall issue. So, like, that just basically means, like, they can't say that you've broken the law there unless they have probable cause.
What would be probable cause?
Yeah, really good question. Well, this is the part where it's kind of a give and take situation with the law, right? I mean, probable cause basically means that they feel that there is probable cause. And we accept that because we feel like, you know, police, and at this point it was like military, were there to protect us. So that's kind of part where we give up a little bit of right because we know that it's, you know, for our protection. But we hope that they're not going to abuse that power. And that's what it would be if they were, you know, if the probable cause was bogus or if it was an unreasonable search and seizure. That would basically be an abuse of power situation. So that's what this is supposed to protect people against. Okay, so I'm particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. So it's just, you know, you and your stuff. Okay, and then Amendment 5.
No person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless on a presentment or indictment of a grand jury, except in cases arising in the land or naval forces or in militia, when in actual service, in time of war or public danger, nor shall any person be subject for the same offense to be twice put in jeopardy of life or limb, nor shall be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against himself, nor be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation.
So the Fifth Amendment, it's a big one. So I think we should go through it part at a time, just like we did with the last one. Okay, so no person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime. Okay, so there's an unless there, but just so we know what we're talking about, basically a capital crime is like, do you know what a capital crime would be? That's a big one. Yeah, that's like murder. That's like a big one. Not just your misdemeanors, your little petty offenses. These are your major crimes. So no person shall be held to answer for these major crimes unless on a presentment or indictment of a grand jury. So a grand jury is basically when a group of people get together and it's not the same as being on a jury. A grand jury actually gets together just to decide if there is enough evidence to even bring you to court. Okay? And this is only major crimes. This is why you don't hear about it. Nobody you know necessarily, probably, has been through something where they'd have a grand jury called to even just to get that first step out of the way. The first step that says you can now be charged with this crime and then go to court and then a jury will sit and decide if you're guilty. Like the grand jury is like the first step in a major crime like this. So, but there is an exception, of course, in cases arising in the land or naval forces or in the militia. And you know what, this is probably, you may have heard this before, like in movies or in books or something, but you know how the military has their own courts? You might have heard of a court-martial. So they actually have their own set of rules that are separate from just regular folks like us. And they have far less rights. I'll put it to you that way. Okay, so when in actual service in time of war or public danger. Okay, so that was that whole one. Nor shall any person be subject for the same offense to be twice put in jeopardy of life or limb. This is called double jeopardy. Does that sound more familiar when I say it like that? Or do you when you read it, what do you think of? Does it make you the way the wording? I mean, it's.
You can't be tried twice.
Yes, girl. Yes, it means you can't be tried for the same crime twice. Exactly, and thank goodness for that, because that would be terrible. Okay. Nor shall be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against himself. Do you know where that one, where the sort of catchy part of that one is? Karen or Katie?
Witness against himself.
Yeah, you can't be asked to testify against your own self. So you hear people say they're going to plead the fifth. So that's what that means.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and it's not just your, so it's also that actually extends to a spouse, but right. So be a witness against yourself, nor be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. Due process. That's a tough one. Any ideas? It means that technically they can't take something from you, deprive, of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, which basically means like either one, giving you the trial you deserve. Okay, that would be like in the case of like a court, you know, like if you were being tried for murder or something. Or also, it could be like, you know, sometimes the government says, I need to widen this road. So they're gonna take part of your front lawn and push back on your front lawn. And so technically there's supposed to be some sort of due process there. Like you're supposed to get something in payment for that. So, yeah, oh, okay, I'm sorry, that was actually the next part. Nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation. That all sort of falls under that, you know, due process. All right, we got through those 5, great. So, let's move on to the in your own words part, which is basically what we just did. But now we'll just, you know, make it official and write it down. So, actually, what I'd like you to do is go ahead and try to do, well, let's do the first one together, all together. All right, so Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. So let's just start with that first part. And what does that mean in your own words?
Freedom of religion. I mean, it means that Congress can't make a law that goes against someone's religion. Like they can't, like people are free to believe in what they believe in.
Okay, so they can't stop you from believing in whatever religion you want to believe. That's one part of it. That's actually the second part. That's the free exercise part. So go ahead and jot down that part. We don't have to do it in like order. We'll just get it out. So there's the free exercise part. Okay, but there was also this other part that says they shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion. So what do you think that means?
They can't tell you to be a religion?
Yeah, actually, yeah, that's pretty much exactly it. Like they can't say this is our religion. This is going to be everybody's religion and everybody has to be this religion. So they can't like have a national religion. The next part of that, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press or of the right of people to peaceably assemble. We'll stop there. All right, so freedom of speech, freedom of press, and freedom to peaceably assemble. I mean, when you're putting something in your own words, like abridging the freedom of speech would not be your own words. So we don't have to like overly complicate it, but you wouldn't say abridging the freedom of speech. So how would you say that?
You can say what you want.
Well, yeah, there's freedom of speech. So they can't tell you, you can't say that. And then of the press. So what are they saying that the government can't do to the press?
They can't stop the bus. They can't keep them from getting information.
They can't tell them what to report. Like they can't say, hey, we're gonna need you to go on the news tonight and say America is awesome and everything we do is great. Like, they can't do that. In some countries they can. In fact, quite a few. So, there's a word that you know for the next one, I'm sure. Peaceably assemble. So like, if you were getting together to peaceably assemble, what are you most likely doing?
Protest.
Yes. Good. Awesome. So we can protest as long as we're peaceful. Okay. And to petition the government for a redress of grievances. So, we talked about this a little bit before. Do you need me to pause now? If you were wronged by the government, you get to call them out for it. I mean, that's how I would say it. So. Okay, I actually have to flip the recording here, so I don't want to start another one. It's only like a couple of minutes, right? Okay, you want to stop that one then?